Now that we have the bass fleshed, we need to get it rinsed and in its preservative soak. This is a stainless steel restaurant type sink. We've been using sinks like this at the studio for years. They're excellent. If you don't have a sink like this, you can simply use a bucket to soak the bass in. You can use some laundry tubs. They work really good for that. And just a spray nozzle on a hose will work if you don't have one of these. But I've got it on cold. You always want to use cold water for every step when you're working on fish. Always cold water. First thing we need to do is spray off all the fleshings and the old borax from that process. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a good cleaning. Again, this is just cold water. Make sure I get on the inside really good. Get in all the cavities. Make sure I get inside the mouth. Get in those gills really good. There's a lot of slime that can accumulate in gills, so I get rid of that. I go into the eyes a little bit, spray it out. Now I need to set up my soak, the preservative soak for the fish. I'm going to do that in this sink. Again, we want to use cold water for this only. We're going to be using, again, the Van Dyke's powdered borax. You can buy this from Mackenzie. It is the best of the best stuff for doing this. You can use the borax you can buy in the store, like 20 Mule Team, which is more of a granulated borax. It doesn't dissolve in the water column as nicely as the powdered borax, so I would definitely recommend getting the powdered borax. It does a much better job. You cannot use too much borax in this soak. I'm going to put in about 5 handsful. If you want to use 10, you certainly can. I've had good luck just with 5. If you have more than one fish soaking in here, you might want to consider using more. First step is we need to get this agitated. So I'm going to turn on my spray thing again and just get it all worked up. And I'm just going to go ahead and start filling the sink with ice cold water. If you would put the fish in warm water, the scales will slip right out of it. You want to make sure that there's plenty of water in here, that when we submerge the fish, it's completely underwater. You don't want any part of it bubbling up or out. What we'll actually do is we'll leave this fish soak in this particular solution for about 4 to 5 hours, and then we'll give it a change. We'll put the same amount of new borax in, and we'll let that soak overnight. And then in the morning, the fish would be ready to mount. If you're not going to mount it right away, you can freeze the fish. If you're going to freeze the fish, you want to make sure you put it in a plastic bag, not in newspapers. Because it has been fleshed and soaked with borax, it's going to dry out very quickly in the freezer. Borax is not only a dryer, it's also a bug proofer. So you want to make sure that when you freeze it up and it's been borax, it's only in there for a short period of time and bagged carefully and properly. You want to use enough water that you can completely submerge the bass, but not too much that you dilute your borax mix. I think we have enough in there. We're going to take our bass. I'm going to take a little bit more borax. I'm just going to rub it into the esophagus. Take it and just submerge it in that ice cold water with the borax. Make sure that all the bubbles are out and everything's underwater. Now that we have the bass soaking, we need to turn our attention to shop cleanup. First thing we need to do is get our tools cleaned. What I like to actually do with these is I like to put them right down in the bottom of the sink. I like to give them a real good spray off with cold water. That fish meat will stick to these tools very quickly if you don't clean them off right away. The borax that's on them is actually very helpful in this cleanup process. Now that I've got the majority of the meat off, I'm going to take a little bit of Dawn dish soap. This is commercial Dawn. Spray it on the tools. Go ahead and agitate them up. Add a little bit of hot water to that mix. If you clean your tools after every job, they're going to be ready and clean for your next job, and you're going to do better work. And the tools will also last longer. It's also a good idea to clean them right away because they can get lost in the newspapers and it can get expensive when you're throwing out a lot of tools. So we'll let all these just air dry now. Just spray out the sink to get any of that excess fish meat out, and that will dry in the sink and be difficult to clean up later.